You ever get a recommendation from, say, a streaming service or an online store and just stare at it? And you think to yourself, why on earth would I ever want that? Well, today we are going to dive into some brand new research on an AI framework that's designed to finally answer that question.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll get into why the recommendation systems we use every day can feel so off. Then we're going to introduce the star of the show, AgenticRAG. After that, we'll peek under the hood at its smart toolkit, and of course, check out the results. We're talking hard numbers on accuracy and, just as important, user trust. And to wrap it all up, we'll look at what this all means for the future of AI assistants.
All right, so first up, let's talk about the big problem here. And look, it's something we've all run into, and let's be honest, it's pretty frustrating.
You know that feeling, right? Your music app is pushing a genre you absolutely hate, or a shopping site keeps insisting you need another one of that thing you already bought 3 years ago. It happens all the time, because the AI systems running these things have some pretty serious fundamental limits.
And this really gets to the heart of it. On one side, you've got the current systems. They're often working with old, stale information. Their knowledge is basically frozen in time from when they were trained, which is a huge problem when, prices change and new stuff comes out every single day. And even worse, their logic is a complete black box. They literally can't tell you how they made a choice. But on the other side is what we actually want. We want an AI that knows what's happening right now and, this is the big one, can actually explain the why behind its suggestions.
And that right there brings us to the really cool solution that these researchers came up with. It's a framework they're calling AgenticRAG.
Okay, so that's the official definition straight from the paper. I know, it's a total mouthful. But the idea behind all that jargon is actually beautiful. It's about building an AI that can think for itself, go out and find new information, and then explain its reasoning to you. And here's the real kicker. It can do all of this right out of the box, without needing to be specially trained for every single new task. That's a concept called zero-shot learning, and it's a huge deal.
So let's break down that name, because it gives the whole game away. Agentic just means it acts like an independent agent. It can make plans and take actions all on its own. And RAG, which stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation, well, that's its superpower. It lets the agent reach outside of its own brain, so to speak, and pull in fresh, relevant facts from the real world, like from the internet.
So how does this thing actually work? How does it put all those pieces together to give you a recommendation that you can actually trust? Well, it turns out it has this really impressive toolkit it can use.
The whole process really boils down to 3 key things. First, it's got that super-powered library. That's the RAG part, for grabbing facts like product details or user reviews. Second, it has a utility belt full of specialized tools. It can actually decide on its own, hey, I should check the current price, or I need to analyze the feeling of these recent reviews. And third, it uses something called chain of thought reasoning, which basically just means it's forced to think out loud and show its work, step by step. And this is pretty cool. The researchers actually looked at which tools the agent decided to use the most. Turns out, similarity computation was its go-to, for comparing items to see how they stack up. But it also reached for sentiment analysis a lot to figure out what people were really saying in reviews. And it used a database tool to pull specific, hard data. This isn't just a passive AI, it's an active investigator.
So you might be wondering, how do you get an AI to act this way, to be so transparent? Well, it turns out you just ask it. This right here is the master prompt they used. They literally just told it, you are an expert, provide step-by-step reasoning. By setting the rules of the game right from the start, they guide the AI to be helpful and clear. It's so simple, but so incredibly powerful.
Okay, let's make this real. Here's an example from the paper. A user asks for a laptop for video editing. It needs to be under $2,000 and have good battery life. So what does the agent do? First, it breaks down the core needs. Then it starts using its tools. It checks prices, compares processor specs, and dives into reviews to analyze what people are saying about the battery. After that, it weighs the pros and cons of the top contenders. And finally, it pulls it all together into a single recommendation, with a full explanation of how it got there.
Now, all of this sounds amazing in theory, but the real question is, does it actually perform better than the systems we have now? Well, let's take a look at the data.
The numbers really do speak for themselves. When they tested it on the super complex Yelp dataset, AgenticRAG was 1.6% more accurate than the next best thing. Now, I know 1.6% might not sound like a huge number, but trust me, in the hyper-competitive world of recommendation engines, that is a massive, hard-earned win.
And what's really impressive is that this wasn't a fluke. It was consistent across totally different kinds of data, from Amazon products to movies to local businesses on Yelp. In every single test, AgenticRAG comes out on top. It beats the old school methods, and it even beats other modern agent-based systems.
But hey, accuracy is only one part of the story, right? A good recommendation has to feel right. You have to trust it. So to figure that part out, the researchers put their AI in front of 120 actual people.
And the results here are just wow. On a 5-point scale, people rated AgenticRAG's explanations as way, way better across the board. Look at the difference in clarity, in relevance. But the number that really jumps out at me is trustworthiness. A 4.1 out of 5 for AgenticRAG versus just a 2.7 for the old way. This proves it. It's not enough to just get the right answer. People want to know how you got it.
So let's zoom out for a second. What does all this really mean? Why is this a bigger deal than just getting slightly better movie recommendations? So if you take away one thing from all this, let it be this. We're seeing a major shift away from these static, black box AIs towards something that's dynamic and transparent. This research shows that an AI can use real-time info, that its thought process doesn't have to be a mystery, and that being open about it is how you build trust. And remember that whole zero-shot learning thing? That means it's flexible and efficient. This really feels like a huge step toward the kind of smart, helpful AI partners we've been hearing about for years.
And that leaves us with a really exciting question, doesn't it? The technology is here, so how long is it going to be until every single digital assistant, every recommendation we get, every AI we talk to can finally just explain why? That's the future this research is pointing to. And honestly, it's a future that looks a whole lot more transparent and trustworthy for all of us.